Welcome, everyone. So glad that you are watching today or watching a little bit later. And I'm so excited about my guest today. A lot of people I chat with are in the wellness community, but this woman is the wellness community. She is a big part of wellness. And I can't wait for her to share your story about how that came about and what she's doing now to help so many people get out of. And we were just talking about that. It could be a knee pain, it could be a back pain, it could be an allergy, it could be all kinds of things that you might be suffering from that you're not even realizing that someone like her is out there available to help you. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you so much, Vickie. I'm honored.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. So a lot of my clients here, I work with weight loss clients, they're also suffering from some of these things. Sometimes that's why the weight's there. A lot,
Right.
and it goes hand in hand with the mindset and body as well, as we both studied. So I'm grateful you're here. But please share with everyone. I love most coaches are in their purpose because of something that happened to them in their life. So share your story. What created this interest in wellness and then moving into coaching?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It started actually very early on. My interest in health started in general. And so I actually got a biology degree. I was very much interested in environmental health and that. But when I was out looking for a career, I ended up doing medical research. And I did medical research on a number of different things. I worked on sickle cell anemia. I looked on the cell membrane. I'm fascinated by the human cell. But the last 10 years, I was working with a laboratory that was studying inflammation. And inflammation also does go with obesity. It increases the inflammation. But studying people who had developed autoimmune diseases and had developed or chronic degenerative diseases and had flares. So they would have times of intense pain and then it would ebb a little bit. And what the lab was trying to do was to reduce those flares, not have those flares coming up. I, at that time, sort of ran the lab, and I was the one designated to go to the clinics and talk to the individuals we were enrolling in the study. So it was really a personal, one-on-one with a number of people who were really suffering through this inflammation. So that's one aspect of it. And at the same time, I have my husband and I have two sons, and our younger son himself has two autoimmune diseases.
Oh.
So at the same time, I was working at home with him, and I loved my laboratory career, but he got very sick when he was around 11 and 12 years old, and it ended up I needed to leave the job. I mean, I tried to work the job. We tried to juggle. It was very difficult. I was going in at 3 a.m, coming home at noon. My husband was going off to work at noon, coming home late at night. So I decided to quit work and be at home with him. And in working with him and seeing the world around me, it's like it just fell right into my lap. I wanted to help people with wellness. I want to continue to help people, but on a different level.
That's awesome. Oh, we're getting a public alert.
Uh-oh.
It's a blue alert, so it must be senior, I would guess. So that's fascinating, and we'll bless whoever they're searching for or looking for.
I hope they find the person.
Yeah, they'll be recovered quickly. So that's really fascinating. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you worked in the labs. That's really fascinating. And that you ended up working on inflammation, which everyone has talked about. It's in the news almost every day of some sort or another, a headline of some sort about how inflammation has caused so many diseases and how it affects us in more ways than people even realize. And
it does. It's the interesting thing, because I was working in a nephrology laboratory, so kidney disease.
Okay, I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, nephrology. As we were working in kidney disease, I did a lot of work with dialysis patients too.
Okay.
But we were finding out that the inflammation, it would attack, depending on the person, in an individual way, it would attack different people in different ways. So some people would end up with arthritis. Some people would end up with kidney disease. It seemed kind of like no rhyme or reason of why someone was affected in a particular way. Some people with cardiovascular disease, that's a lot to do with inflammation.
Wow, that's really interesting to know, because it's really individualized. I guess I didn't think of it that way. And what you're saying is that inflammation is the cause, but it could really land anywhere in your body.
Exactly.
And affect that part of and I hadn't thought of it that way. So some people it is their kidneys, others it's their knees, it may be, like chronic fatigue. I've had many guests on who have had that experience and gotten out of it. It's all over. So
right.
It's really interesting that how it affects each one of us differently. And so I want to ask you how to fix it, but we're not there yet. So, because I know
there's no magic bullet. I can tell you that.
Well, that's good to know too. All right, so I'm not missing anything. It's kind of like with dieting. Everyone's looking for the perfect diet. I'm like, there isn't one, right? Everyone is different and unique.
Right. There's not the perfect one.
Exactly, and it's what you're willing to do and not do too.
And yes, so that actually, it's funny because I was trying to help my son. I realized there's absolutely no one perfect thing. There's no one medication. There's no one supplement. There's no one anything. You have to look at it holistically. And so that's what I've gotten so fascinated with is looking at the whole body. When I was doing research, it was that like human cells, but now it's everything, our emotional needs, mind, body, and soul. And that actually all affects our health in positive ways.
Absolutely. And I love that you defined that. So what does the wholeness mean? What does looking at the whole person mean? And I'm on the same page with you. Weight loss isn't just about the food that you eat or the exercise you do.
Right.
It's about the emotional body. And that what I mean by that, what emotions are you feeling? What's causing you to eat? And then there's a spiritual component. There's an energetic component. So there's a whole lot of things that that need to be considered. And I started learning about the cells from Dr. Bruce Lipton, and the biology of belief just fascinated me. That even our belief systems can affect us at a cellular level.
Yeah, the cells can hold on to things.
Tell me more. Tell me how they can hold on to things.
Well, I'm not the expert in this, and this is one reason why I started my community, to bring in experts. But, the cells really do hold on to trauma. I mean, if you've had trauma in the past, you can be holding on to it in the cellular level. And actually, this is where it takes someone like you who can really help people release that, because it can be released.
It can be. And when you mean that it can be held on at a cellular level, what does that mean? Well, I guess.
Well, we're energetic beings,
Right.
And the cells have an energy all their own. Mm-hmm. So it gets trapped in there, and this is not my expertise, right. but I have seen results of positive results of people actually being able to release that negative energy. Yeah.
And what I have seen is the knee pain. So the knee pain is actually, like you said, a trauma in the cell. Could have been a physical trauma. It could have been a car accident. It could have been a fall. Could have been or it could have just all of a sudden showed up out of what we think.
It could be general inflammation that shows that just shows up there, or quite often, it could be an injury that you didn't even know was an injury. And then when you have if your body has general rise in inflammation, mm-hmm. it tends to go to the part that have a little bit of injury.
Interesting. That's really fascinating.
I mean, that's what they're supposed to do in an acute situation. When you think about it, cells talk to each other. Did you know that?
I knew that. How fun!
It's really neat. but that's how, when we have a regular immune response, and we get inflammation, because it's part of an immune response.
Right. It's
and that's good, because that helps you heal. Say you fell and you twisted your ankle, and then it starts swelling and turning red and it's sore. That's telling your body that, oh yeah, we need to rest it.
Yeah.
But it's when it becomes chronic, which is the issue. And I think a lot of people know this, but there are ways to help.
Well, that's, and now's about the time that I'm going to ask you how, but a lot of people think of inflammation because there's so much hype about it. Thanks who's watching. We can see your comments if you want to comment in the Facebook that you're here. But so many people think of inflammation as a bad thing, and that's not really true. It is your body's automatic response to heal. It is, like you said, when it becomes chronic, then the body's overloaded. So how did you help, and are still helping, your son overcome some of these, or at least maintain his autoimmune disorder?
Well, a lot of it has to do with, he has food sensitivities. So a lot of it has to do with foods that are causing extra inflammation. When he has type 1 diabetes and Hashimoto's. Those are the two autoimmune disorders. And he ended up with leaky gut also, which exacerbated everything. So that's why the food sensitivities. So we solved it by eliminating some of the foods that he's very sensitive to, and just making sure he has a wide variety of diet otherwise, to not become sensitive to a food. That's one thing. Another thing is, let me see, really a lot of the emotional component. He did get some brain injury from the diabetes when he was little, because he was 17 months old when he got it. And what we've had to do is, we've gone through a number of things, of the mindfulness, the positive self-talk, the affirmations, and actually we've also gone into hypnosis for him. And that has really helped him, because it's something that he can listen to. He listens to a hypnosis tape that his therapist actually made just for him. And it gets, it starts pulling it into the body there's so many things you can do. And it's really helping him resolve anxieties, because with the brain injury and having no short-term memory, that caused a lot of anxiety for him.
Sure.
And so that's very helpful. Exercise helps. And especially exercises, well, for him, it was talking the left brain to the right brain. But when someone has, even if someone has an autoimmune disease, moderate exercise is good. Not the heavy duty boot camps, but moderate exercise. Do the exercise with the attitude of, you're doing this to help you feel better, to be good. You're not doing it to punish yourself. People often exercise and they're saying, or they're either punishing themselves, or they're saying, if I do this exercise, I can reward myself with food. With that, I can have that ice cream if I put all these calories. Or they get opposite way. They have food, say, I ate too much, therefore I need to punish myself by running this far. But if you're exercising in a mindful way, in a way that brings joy, and choosing exercises that you have fun doing,
right,
I think that's completely important.
And I love what you're saying, because there's a lot of layers and components to this.
Yeah.
And so there's the physical component, of course, food sensitivities, which not everyone might not have food sensitivities.
No, that's a personalized thing. When I work with people, everything is so personalized.
That's what I was getting to, because that might not be someone else's issue, but you'll figure that out for them. You'll help them figure that out. But then there's also exercise, food, there's mindfulness, some kind of mind. And then, like you said, not only physical exercise like we think of, but exercises to reconnect or get the left side and the right side of the brain to talk. And I know you have much more that you offer on an individual one by one case,
Right.
because there's no blanket one, like you said, there's no pill, there's no supplement, there's no one of anything, there's no one diet that's going to fix everybody or
Correct.
even fix it a little, but there are ways to start creating a healing path. And I love what you're saying. You start it where they're at, rather than
Hmm.
making assumptions, and
Hmm.
then start working towards a personalized path for their healing. So I love all of that. This is my favorite question. What's a common myth about the whole wellness aspect?
A common myth that really is, I mean, I really think people just, let me think about this. People want that magic bullet. They really want to have something that fixes them. They want a pill that fixes it. And and I've known this a long time because with working with dialysis patients or end stage renal disease, so
Mhm.
kidneys are failing. There's lots of ways you can prevent them from going all the way to needing dialysis. And we would have patients, well, I wasn't my patients, but the physician's patients say, can't you just give me a pill to fix it? And it's like, well, I'm sorry, it's lifestyle. But what I like about lifestyle wellness, it also people feel like, well, either they have to jump in and do everything at once. That's another misconception.
That's what they're
And
doing.
I really work with people trying to develop work on one or two things, never more than three at a time,
Mhm.
and develop it until it becomes a habit, until it becomes sustainable. So you're not thinking about it.
Right.
Because most people don't think that they don't think about brushing their teeth every morning. They just do it, right? Well, almost any wellness behavior, you can turn it into a habit, and then it becomes your life.
Mhm.
And once you're comfortable with that, then we move on to something, a little bit more. And often people I work with, they don't feel the energy enough to exercise. So we try some other things. And actually, this is a point where there can be a supplement that can help you feel enough better to say, oh, have this moment of, well, I think I'd like to. I talked to a client last week. She said, I'm feeling better. I'm really wanting to go and do some aerobic and water aerobics. She said, I think that's going to help
Mhm.
me. I won't feel worried about falling because she's got
Yes.
rheumatoid arthritis. I won't feel worried. I'll still be able to move my body. And she said, Robin, 3 weeks ago, I didn't want to get off my sofa. I didn't want to get off my couch at all. And I was in pain. It was hard to get out of bed. And so she was ultimately saying, I'm ready to do this.
And
And
that
she's
was
not ready to go into a boot camp, but she's ready to start moving her body, which is wonderful.
I love that. I love that component all at once. So many of us are all or nothing. So we either do it all or we don't do anything at all. And then there is an in between. I don't feel like it.
Mhm.
And there are, I believe in anything that helps support our body. And for me, that includes supplements. And so it's nice to know that you can help guide them what is the right supplement for them for that experience,
Yeah.
because you can Google this stuff all day long and get all kinds of different opinions, and they're all going to give you different supplements. And then if you go out to some of the convenience stores and find that supplement, it may not be what you think it is. So your guidance in that is just priceless, because there's so many supplements that aren't what they really say they are.
True. And I always start small.
Good.
So I know some people will go to a coach and they end up on 8 different supplements. If you do that, if you jump in, you don't know what's helped.
Right.
So I always start small and let's see how this works and let's see how you feel with this. And if you feel like you need something, if something else is coming up, we'll work on that later. So I like to do that, and I so very much a stickler of quality.
Yeah.
Quality is so important because the quality it is variable. It's extremely variable.
Yes, very much so. And then you start seeing the studies about a certain supplement actually has worse side effects than what it was supposed to have. It's all craziness. So to have someone like you who studied it, who has knowledge of it, who loves to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I have a client that says, I come to you because I don't want to know any more about dieting, but I know you read about it all the time. And I'm
Right.
doing
Most of my clients say the same thing. They say, I like the way you translate it.
exactly.
Like you read the science. I love reading the science and then translating it into what makes sense really for the vast majority of people.
Right, exactly. And then even drilling it down a little bit further, does that make sense for that client that you have in front
And
of
that
you?
makes sense. I mean, I'm always, my very first thought is for that, but
Right.
the person's in front of me,
Yep.
whether they're
Exactly.
in Zoom in front of me or in person in front of me.
Yeah.
That's my first thought.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, we back up and it's just like, let's just start. Some people want to start faster than others, but some people really want to start way back. I mean, sometimes it's just helping them drink a little more water.
Well, that sounds silly. However,
It's not.
it's not, and most of us won't do that unless we have someone else to be accountable for
Yeah.
those silly, really, because they know it. They know that. It's like one of my clients, I tell them to breathe. I'm like, well, aren't I breathing now? I'm like, well, I know you are breathing, but you're not breathing in a deep way
Yeah.
to affect the stress level that you're under right now.
Right.
And they need someone else to remind them. And I'm that way too. That's why I have coaches and other people to help with things that I'm working with, because it gives me accountability to do those simple things we all know to do. So if there was one thing you wish you would have known that you know now when all of this started, is there something that along this journey that you wish you would have known and done a little differently?
I really wish I'd known from the very beginning, especially when caring for my son. I wish I'd known when he was young. He was about 18 years old before I was open to a more holistic practice. I didn't know about it. People didn't know. And I'm in a medical community, and they were thinking just along the lines of disease, there's a drug for it, kind
Right.
of thing. And I wish I'd really been able to utilize some of these practices when he was young. And also just know in general, I mean, just for the people around me, the world around me, and myself, just to realize how much is out there available to us. And not everything is for everybody.
Right.
And I wanted to bring out that because of my son and because of seeing this and learning this, I started a community called Living Well Connections. And Living Well Connections, it started off with bringing together the holistic practitioners I did discover early, not early enough, and bringing them as wanting them to work with each other and be able to know what else is out there. And then now it's grown significantly, and anyone who's interested in wellness is invited to be part of this community, which is free. It's a free Facebook community, and there's such a good energy in that community. I just love it because everybody there is heart-centered and really interested in helping others, or or learning about what they can do for themselves. And so there's a lot of different options there, and a way to learn.
That's awesome. I appreciate that offer. And you can go to livingwellconnections.info, not only to learn how to connect to that community, but to also get this amazing free gift. When I read this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want this. 5 ways to get started with healthy habits without getting overwhelmed. That's awesome, because the first thing we think about when we think about changing is, what is it going to take? How much time is it going to be? This is going to be overwhelming before we even get started.
Right. You just take it one step at a time.
Absolutely.
And there's a number of, I mean, there's five different ways. I mean, and some ways work better for different individuals.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
some people like the piggyback habits, say brush your teeth, and then okay, I wasn't a very good flosser.
Uh-huh.
So brush your teeth for floss. Well, I just put the flosser, right there, and sort of tagged it onto, okay, every time I brush my teeth, I need to do that too. Now that seems simplistic again, but you can do this with other habits.
Yeah, and a lot of times it is simple. It's not always easy, and
Yeah,
that's why
it's
it's so
not always
important.
easy, but you think you can do, almost everybody tells me they can do anything for a week.
Exactly.
And then we reassess, okay, you did it. You did it for a week. Can you do it for another week?
Yeah.
But if I go and say, you need to do this for the rest of your life, then they panic.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that approach too. I use the same thing with my weight loss clients. One step at a time, one simple step. It may be easy, but you can do it today, and you
Yeah.
can do it tomorrow, and you can do it for a week. So, like you said, it is repetition does create new habits. That's part of the formula. So,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely true. So, I've so enjoyed having you on, but I do have one last question, and I purposely didn't prepare you for this because it's a very important question, and it changes the whole outcome of the universe. Do you prefer you put your toilet paper on so that it rolls over or under?
Oh, this is a major question.
I
And I
thought so.
definitely have a distinct answer. I'm an over person.
All right, so there's one more for over.
Are you keeping a list of these?
I am not, but I'm beginning to think I need to do that. And true, but my intuition is telling me the over is winning.
Oh,
But see, I'm not either. I'm just glad to have it on.
you're
So
just glad to have toilet paper.
I'm just glad there's one there. So I'm in the middle category. So again, thanks so much for sharing this with me and to my community. And you can get a hold of Robin through livingwellconnections.info, and you will from there you'll get all kinds of availability to get in touch with her, to have conversations with her,
Right.
or get part of that community. Uh, Whatever, take one step. Take one step today, one small step to your health and your wellness. And thanks so much for being on, Robin.
Absolutely. This is fun. And if anybody has any questions they want to post in the comments, I'll go back and answer them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your generosity in doing that. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
showing
Thank
up.
you, Vickie.
If you watch this later, please put hashtag replay in the comments. That helps send it out to the Facebook universe and lets us know that you're watching. So we appreciate that. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.